Welcome to Book Talk. My name is Buffy Gatella. This week I'm joined with
Payson Hendrix.
Hey Payson guys. Is going to talk about her newest book. Well, she actually has two books, but let's talk about your newest book. What is it about? What's the title?
All right. So my newest book is Rabbit, Worm, and the Giant Carrot. It is about a rabbit named Charlie who just loves carrot soup. And one day she encounters a very particularly giant and stubborn carrot and just can't get it out. So she goes to the farm friends, asks them for their help. And it's that one unexpected friend who, ends up getting the job done, helps them out.
I love that. And what's your other book? And what is that about?
My other book is Fingers Aren't Food. And that one is about Theo. He's engaging with the reader, which is a different spin on it. And he is talking about what his favorite animal at the zoo is and laughing about all the signs outside of animal enclosures the whole time.
So which book was did you prefer to write? Which one do you have a favorite, or are they just like children that you don't have a favorite? You love them each in their own way.
Yeah, you know what? And I wrote one for each of my kids. So they're just so different. I don't have a favorite. The Fingers Aren't Food, the character is actually drawn after my son. And Rabbit, Worm, and the Giant Carrot, the rabbit's name is Charlie, and that's my daughter. So there's like one book for each. So I can't really pick a book, and they're totally different.
That's all right. That's super awesome, though. And I can't even imagine trying to write a children's book. So did you have an illustrator and everything for that, or?
Yeah, so I actually didn't do it on purpose. My husband is the one who always would tell the bedtime stories, and my daughter jokes and would always ask me to tell her one, and I'm like, I can't, that's not what I do. And then finally I just started telling her a story, and then she would ask for it night after night after night. And that evolved into Rabbit, Worm, and the Giant Carrot. And when I was telling it to her, it was based for a 3, 4, 5-year-old, a story that's predictable that she could follow along with and laugh at. So I had that in my mind. And then Fingers Aren't Food, when I was on maternity leave, again, by accident, woke up in the middle of the night, was doing our thing. And just this weird story popped into my head, and I quickly grabbed my phone and started typing it down. The next morning, I called my whole family. I was like, listen to this. I don't know if it's a funny story just to me or if everybody else thinks it's funny. And they all liked it. So I was like, let's write a book. So we kind of started going down the path of books. The illustrator for Fingers Aren't Food is actually a local artist, Rich Henneman. We found him at the Worcester Street Art Festival, that Start on the Street festival. We used to go, every end of the summer, walk up and down the street. And we went after I had written down that book, and we collected a whole bunch of illustrator cards, brought them home, went on their websites, looked at their portfolios. We reached out to the couple we thought looked like, the drawings we had kind of envisioned in our mind. And then he just stuck, and we just kept going on with him. So that was that one. Rabbit, Worm, and the Giant Carrot, we actually have a publisher, who is also a friend. So he knew of an illustrator. So he gave us someone he thought would match our idea of that story. So two very different paths.
Very different paths, but also I'm interested because one of your books was done through a publisher, and the other one, did you self-publish? Is that so?
Yeah, so we self-published. We made our own publishing company. Little Storm Publishing, which, again, when we wrote the books, we actually sent both to our friend who has a publishing company himself, and he liked one, so he took that one and said, I'll run with this. And so we wanted to try the other one ourselves. And it was funny, the day we were like doing the research on the computer, how do we do this? We looked over and our daughter had drawn just this silly little picture on the whiteboard, and like, I don't know, sparks flew, light bulbs went off. We thought it looked like a little cloud, so Little Storm Publishing was born. And then the rest was history, I guess.
So you have your own little not production company, but publishing company, and your friend, you published one book and through a publisher. Which one did you prefer doing? Did you like going through the publisher, even though you have that connection because they're your friend, so I guess it's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily know like the big publishing company route yet. Self-publishing's a lot of work, a lot of time spent researching. I'm lucky to have my husband. He did a lot of that research. He's in that business world. I teach. So I got the book down, and then he did the business pieces. And he did a lot of that research and got us the LLC for the company. And we actually found a local printing company in Lowell, King Printing Company. So we went back and forth with them about the paper and the size and the color. And there are a lot of decisions outside of just writing a story.
Yeah.
You want to get it into, like, when you're holding this, what seems to be simple children's book, there were a lot of decisions and processes before that. So it was definitely cool to experience that. Whereas with the other one, the company Upal made, he published it for us. So I think he made a lot of those decisions, which helped us. He was just like, you cool? We were like, yep, we're good. You keep going. You let us know when you need us. So it was just different. It was nice to learn, but it was a lot of work.
I imagine that it was. And do you have like any plans to write any more books in the future? Or are you already in the process of writing something?
So our friend Jeffrey Conrad, JC, he's the guy at Upal Made. They're actually in Salt Lake City, Utah. So they're not as local, but still in the States. So that's cool. We are book 5 in his little book series. So he's written, illustrated somebody else written, and he's illustrated. So long story short, he has a history of, I think he invented the Care Bears, or, he's like this cool dude, very, very talented man. And he has said, like, hey, if you ever want to write like a sequel to Rabbit Worm, so I've got like probably 3/4 of that story done. But because these other 2 books sort of just like popped into my head, I'm waiting for the ending to like come to me. I like the way that book ends. I started the next one, but I haven't quite figured out where it needs to go from here. So I'm a little stuck on that, but definitely willing to, do more in that sense.
So have you always been a writer, or is this like a new thing for you?
No, I think it's kind of new. So I'm in education, and I've worked with children forever, since I was a child. I loved picture books and kids books, would constantly read them to kids, would love doing read alouds in all my like field studies and whatnot, and connecting them to whatever class I was teaching. It didn't matter what it was. I was like, oh, let's find a book for that. Loved my children's lit class in college and grad school and all that, nerdy stuff. I even started building my kids' book library before I like even knew I was having kids. So I had like a children's library building in my house before I even was having children. So I've just always loved kids' book. I never actually thought I would have an official book. I don't know. And again, got to give some kudos to my husband, because I came down with those stories and he sort of said, you want to make them a real book? And I was like, wait, really? Like, we can do that? And so we kind of ran with it. And now we have 2. Pretty cool.
That's so cool. And I think that's really awesome that you've always kind of been into children's books. And what grades do you teach? Do you teach like elementary school?
Right now I teach 7th grade science.
So not even English. You're doing science.
No, it's funny too, because my undergrad is elementary.
Yeah.
I'm no longer elementary. and my master's is in literacy. So I'm not even teaching literacy either, but it's intertwined everywhere. It never goes away.
That's super cool. And no, I'm just curious because my brother, I have a twin brother, and he's doing history secondary ed, so he wants to do like high school history.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's focused on children's books and things, but you're right. Children's books they're kind of universal. One of my teachers in college, like every class, I've had 2 classes with him, and he always incorporates children's books into lessons because even though you're like, I'm 20 years old, they're still relevant, and the stories and the messages in them are playing a role and are helpful.
That's what's so cool about kids' books is no one really outgrows them. There might be this like weird age group. Like if I were to ask my students, "Hey guys, want to read a kid's book?" They'd like scoff at it. They're just too cool for that. But deep down, like if I didn't ask and I just pull out a children's book and start reading it, they're all in. They love to hear a book read aloud to them. Like I don't think anybody grows out of the pleasure of being read to,
I love it, and I don't remember the last time that it happened. Well, actually, it did a couple weeks ago for that class I was in, but there's nothing like when at least when I was a kid, you go to the library, and then the teacher, or not even a teacher, a librarian would just read you the books out loud, and you were so glued to it, and I feel like the stories just come alive, and I don't know. It's really, I love books. I read all the time anyways, but I am such a book nerd, but I even think children's books can bring it to a whole nother level, with the pictures and everything. So
they're cool too because I might have had a story or an idea or a purpose for writing the book I wrote, and then depending on how someone else reads it or who hears it from somebody else reading it, they're going to get different messages. And like you said, your professor might take that book and I might use it in a totally different way. And that's what's just really cool. And I mean, I don't know, someday I hope my books get utilized in that way. Like, oh, I did this lesson and it was totally different than this lesson. And I read it to my kids because this happened in our life. I hope that my books can be utilized like that too. Be cool.
That would be so cool. It's amazing to think like, oh, someday like possibly your work someone else could use to teach their children or whoever. It's kind of nuts, but also kind of rewarding too, because at least you're having an impact on someone else's lives.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool idea, and it's funny because I'll tell my own children, and they're like, "What?" Like they don't even really get it. So it's not like it's a big deal in our house either. They're like, "Yeah, so this is mommy's book, and this isn't mommy's book."
It's fine. Yeah, they don't even realize you're like, no, but like I did this. Yeah.
Like your name is actually in this book and in other homes.
I think maybe they're just like, oh, every mom does that, so it's like not a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, I think for a long time, I'm into film and everything. Growing up, I just thought, not that I have relatives in making movies or anything, but I was just like, oh yeah, movies, like they're just there. Like I never, you don't think like someone's actually making this, right? At least I didn't when I was a kid. And then when you become older, you're like, oh, it actually takes a lot of work to make something like that and to do that. So
yeah,
not everybody can do it.
No, and I didn't think I could either. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, these books kind of stumbled by accident, and I have really good supports who said, let's make it happen.
And did you feel like, I know for me as a writer, sometimes you just have these stories and you're like, it needs to be told. Was that a similar experience for you?
Well, now that they're out, I would love, like, that's really my ultimate goal, is just get them in kids' homes, get them in kids' hands, like, just have fun, be silly, laugh, hear a good story. That's, I don't want anything more than just kids.
Yeah.
Here, have a book.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I wish today I could be like at a store or something. Here, have a book.
Well, maybe one day, hopefully in like, who knows, a year? Who knows? No idea.
Knows?
We'll see how it goes. No, I totally, I understand that. all I want to do is like go into a bookstore and peruse. And I did that a couple months ago, but when COVID wasn't that high. But now I'm like, now I'm not gonna even get close to that. But what is your story? I guess we've talked a little bit about the books that you've written, but where are you from? How did you get to where you are today? What is?
I don't know that my story is very interesting, but that could just be me myself. I grew up in Westboro, so I'm local. I went to Westboro High. I went to Framingham State, both undergrad and grad, so haven't gone very far. I did marry my high school sweetheart, so that's fun. We've been together since high school. We have two lovely children. Our daughter Charlie, she's 5.5, and our son Callan, he's 2. And I mean, here we are. I've been working with kids and teaching for many years. I've landed this year as a 7th grade science teacher, and all the yuck aside, I'm still loving it. The kids are great. Doing what we can to make it fun and engaging still. And yeah, I don't know. That's me.
No, it's interesting. I know that people think that their stories aren't interesting, but that's still an interesting timeline. You're local. You've kind of been in this area for a long time, and fellow state school student like myself. So I'm like, yes, that's great. And yeah. I think anybody who wants to be a teacher, like I don't think I would ever want to do that. But I was saying my brother and my cousin. I guess I kind of come from a teaching family. My cousins are both teachers, and it's a very hard job. And I think it's really rewarding too. Like they love it, and I think you probably love your job more than anything, right?
Yeah. I joke with my students that I do the same thing at home that I do in school. So it's just me living my life. It's not that I hear myself saying what I say to my 5-year-old, to my 13-year-olds at school. I'm like, guys, I come to work for a different space. Help me out here.
Yeah, just help me. I give so much. Give me like a little bit back. Yeah. So.
No, but I love it. I do love it.
No, I imagine you do, and you wouldn't be doing it for this long if you didn't love it, right? So you probably would have been like, done it for a year. It was like, not for me, because I know that there are people that are like that.
Yeah.
I guess, where do you want to go from here with your writing? So obviously we talked about a little bit that maybe you have a few books down the line that you're thinking of doing, but would you want to branch out into not children's books? Or what's your goal as a writer?
I think I would want to live in the children's book space. I've always, like I said, always loved the children's books, even before my own children. I don't know, just like the pictures and the stories, and sometimes when there's a few words, such a deep story, and when there's no pictures, it's still a great story, even in a children's book. So I think I would want to live in the children's book space. I would love to get that second book done sooner than later. I don't want it to be like 15 years from now, like, oh yeah, what about that other story? I think what would be fun now that my daughter's getting a little older is have her help. We've read some books together, and then, a couple of the books that have like 2 or 3 in them, she always thinks it's fun to then tell the next story that doesn't actually exist. And she's like, Mommy, we should tell that author my story so he can make a new book, or she can make a new book. Again, that child mind, she's like, oh, it's just like the person next door. You can just tell them and they can make that book, right? Because it's my idea and it's great. But maybe she could do that for me, help me with one of my books and help me finish my story and be part of that process. That would be cool. That
would be so nice. I love that. You should definitely do that. I don't know when you'll have the time, but I think you should definitely do that. I think that's a great idea. And like you said, children have like big minds, big imaginations. I know I did. So that's why I think she'd love it.
She's got cool ideas. Maybe I'll have to start caving and being like, here's the start of a bedtime story. You finish it. See what she says.
Oh, that's a good idea. Just to see where she takes it. Oh, I love that. Is there a specific goal you want to hit with your writing in terms of, I don't know, New York Times bestselling author, or do something like that?
Yeah, it's funny. When we first got our books, we did all sorts of research. Like, how do you become the, whatever, on the top seller list or whatever. And it's hard. You have to sell like a bunch of copies in a really short period of time. And my husband is in the digital space and Amazon and all this stuff. So he put one of our books on Amazon, and then he's working on getting the other one. So he thought like, oh, I'll sell them on Amazon. It'll do great. I know how to do that. It's really hard to sell books. And I don't know who or where the stop is, but trying to sell them myself, even trying to sell them on Amazon. Amazon started as only selling books. So I think they like secretly want to hold on to that. So if you come in with a book, they're like, no, this is our space. We're books. Like we do it. So I would have to like relinquish it over to them. Maybe, I don't know. But I mean, being that big would be kind of cool, and being like, yeah, I made the top seller list that week. I don't know how to get there. Maybe just the right person needs to hear and tweet me out or something. I don't know, but
you're probably right.
Cool.
Yeah, probably just the right person at the right time. I think it's all about timing too. I don't know. I read a lot of books. Doesn't mean that I know how to write a book / do any of that. Trying to get it on a bestseller list. No, I have no idea how to do that. But
yeah, the whole other world. Like you said, when you're a kid and you don't really know that there's all this background before the movie, there's a lot that goes into just those few pages that you read this amazing story. It's got to get into the right hands of the right person who says this book is it and makes it happen.
I know, maybe a movie down the line for you. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, the next time you're scrolling through Netflix and you see like Rabbit Worm, you'll be like, oh my gosh.
I know exactly where that came from. Yeah, exactly. That'd be so cool. I'd be like, oh, a fellow person from the area, I guess, are we Metro West? Is that our, I think so,
I think
right?
We're still technically Metro West.
The Metro West area. There you go. That would be cool. Really cool. Okay. So I have a goofy question. If fingers could be food, what food would you want them to be?
That's a hard question. I think my actual children's brain goes to that visual and gets super weirded out to think like, oh my God, my fingers are food. And then, oh my God, I'm going to eat them. But if I had to pick a food, I'm pretty sure I would pick either sushi or cotton candy. And I know that's really bizarre ends of the spectrum, but I think that's what I would have to go with. So
do you think that in this, theoretical situation, you would eat it and then your fingers would grow back and you'd have more food? Or is it like you eat it and then it doesn't grow back?
That's what I was thinking about. I think they would have to just keep regenerating. So maybe I could have a list of food and every day or each meal it's something different, or maybe your fingers are in between. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like this one's cotton candy and then this one's whatever, and each finger is its own food.
But they definitely have to come back in some aspect, either as the food or as a finger.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting too. It's like once you eat the finger or the food, then you're done.
You're done.
That's
it.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add or talk about?
I don't think so.
Nothing else? Anything?
I couldn't think of much. I think we covered a lot of fun stuff. Like you said, I hope that we see it bigger someday, somewhere out there. That would be really exciting.
Do you have any social media / I guess things you want to plug?
I have my Instagram, Payson Hendrix Books. I have a Facebook page linked with that as well. I'm not that great at it, but back before COVID, if there was an event or a reading or a signing, I was good about putting things up there. I have to get better at it. I think between having kids and a job and any other sort of life, it's hard to keep up with, but I'm trying.
Yeah,
I do have my books at Tatnick Bookseller in Westboro, and Serendipity here in Hudson has a couple. So that's a couple places to go, touch, feel, and read in person. I have been trying to get them into the library, but again, harder than you would think. Anytime I see one of those little lending libraries, I stick a couple copies in there, so you can always try your luck. I did put ones in the one across the street, I think, from Farley.
Yep.
Relatively recently. I hope I hope people still open those doors because there's still books.
I think so. I drove by it the other day because I live right around the corner. So I did see. I didn't even know that we had one of those, and I saw it.
I think they like pop up out of nowhere, or I've just started looking for them because all of a sudden I see them everywhere. We were just at the park this weekend. I was like, oh look, here's one. They're awesome. I mean, really cool. So you can buy Fingers Aren't Food on Amazon. And you can buy Rabbit Worm and the Giant Carrot on ooplemade.com. I believe it's ooplemade and not oople. Let me double check that for you. But that's the other publishing. Yeah, ooplemade. So OOPLEMADE.com. And that site has his other books in the series, I guess. They're not actually connected, but we are book 5 of his now 6 books. I think he has a new one out. So that's cool.
That's really cool. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, do you have anything else you want to say before we go, or?
No, I think I'm good. I don't have anything other than read. Like, even if it's not my books, keep reading to kids and keep reading books yourselves.
Well, thank you so much for coming today. This has been Book Talk, and we'll see you guys next week.